India's Prime Minister holds a roadshow with UAE President on the eve of vibrant Gujarat summit. Several MOUs signed, also meets other world leaders and CEOs. Gabriel Attal becomes France's youngest Prime Minister as President Emmanuel Macron seeks a political reset ahead of the European Parliament election. India's President Draupadi Murmu confers the National Sports Awards on 26 athletes, including Sheetal Devi, the world's first armless woman archer. Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulates the winners. And a cold wave grips northern India. The US battles thick snow. Heavy snowfall in Russia leads to a multi-vehicle collision. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi met world leaders and CEOs of top global corporations ahead of the vibrant Gujarat Global Summit at Gandhinagar in the western Indian state of Gujarat. Meghna Dev reports.
The top CEOs from the most prominent global companies taking part in the vibrant Gujarat Global Summit met India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Gandhinagar. In the meeting with Micron Technologies CEO Sanjay Mehrotra, discussions took place on the efforts of Micron in boosting the semiconductor manufacturing ecosystem.
He is such a visionary leader of India and so dedicated to advancing semiconductor manufacturing here in India, and we were pleased to have the opportunity to update Prime Minister Modi on the progress that we are making with our Sanand project. So a meeting was dedicated to that, as well as Micron's focus on continuing to increase the workforce for semiconductor manufacturing here in India.
CEO of DP World, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulaim, in his meeting with Prime Minister, discussed the plans of DP World in ramping up investment in India. These include building sustainable, green and energy-efficient ports and world-class sustainable logistics infrastructure. Sultan Ahmed bin Sulaim praised the Prime Minister's vision.
It was an excellent meeting. This man is amazing. His energy, his vision is what drives us and inspires us. It was very inspiring. We discussed about our investment in India, expanding it. We are acquiring industrial lands. We are going to put manufacturing ourselves. We will invest in manufacturing in various areas in India.
Vice-Chancellor of Deakin University, Ian Martin, during his meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, discussed on enhancing collaboration between government and academic institutions pertaining to cybersecurity.
We had a truly fantastic conversation around the future of education, skilling and research in India, clearly focused on us being in India for 30 years, but tomorrow inaugurating the first international branch campus at Gift City of Deakin University. So this is a very auspicious and special day, and to combine that inauguration with the vibrant Gujarat Festival, with Prime Minister Modi being here, is a very special time indeed.
CEO of APM Terminals, Keith Swenson, met Prime Minister, and in that meeting, PM Modi welcomed expansion plans of APM Terminals in the Gift City. Discussions also took place on issues ranging from developing green hydrogen to logistics infrastructure.
For us, it's very exciting to have the opportunity to discuss that with the Prime Minister, and I must say, very inspiring policies, and I was very impressed with his knowledge about the details of our industry, and so it was a very good meeting.
India's Prime Minister met Representative Director and President Suzuki Motor Corp Toshihiro Suzuki in Gandhinagar. Both leaders held discussions on Maruti Suzuki's plans to make India a strong player in the global automotive market by exporting made-in-India vehicles. Earlier, Prime Minister Modi held bilateral talks with Jose Ramos Horta, President of Timor-Leste, at the Mahatma Mandir, Gandhinagar. The leaders discussed ways to enhance bilateral and cultural ties between the two countries. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also held bilateral meeting with Mozambique President Filipe Jacinto Nyusi in Gandhinagar. Both leaders held productive discussions on ways to further enhance bilateral ties. Prime Minister Narendra Modi suggested that the two countries could work to enhance air connectivity to give a boost to business, culture and people-to-people ties. With Bureau Inputs, Meghna Dev's report for DD India.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi welcomed UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan in Ahmedabad. He held a roadshow with the visiting UAE leader from the Ahmedabad airport to Gandhinagar. President Al Nahyan is the chief guest at the vibrant Gujarat summit beginning on Wednesday. The two leaders held bilateral talks and witnessed the signing of several agreements.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's meeting with UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan at Ahmedabad Airport underscores the strength of relations between the two nations and their partnership on the global stage. The Prime Minister broke protocol by personally receiving the visiting president at the airport. A high-level delegation, including India's Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, was also present on the occasion. The President of the UAE will be the chief guest at the 10th edition of the vibrant Gujarat Summit and was accorded a guard of honor at the airport. Artists welcomed the visiting president on the airport premises. The deepening partnership between India and the UAE is evident from Prime Minister Modi's two visits to the UAE in July and December of the previous year. Prime Minister Modi and President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan were seen together in the same car leaving Ahmedabad airport, with people lining both sides of the road to welcome them. President Al Nahyan reciprocated the greetings of the people. During the bilateral meeting, the two leaders discussed a comprehensive economic agreement. An MOU was signed between India and the UAE on solar, hydrogen, grid connectivity and the health sector. Additionally, agreements were reached on cooperation in developing Green Park in Gujarat. The UAE is India's third largest trading partner, while India ranks as the UAE's second largest trading partner. Currently, bilateral trade stands at $85 billion, with a target set to surpass $100 billion. Bureau Report, DD India.
And Meghna Dev joins us from Ahmedabad. Meghna, how did the India-UAE talks go? What can you tell us about the MOU signed on the occasion as well?
So when we actually look at the entire event, in fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was really excited to be receiving the UAE president. And yesterday when Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Ahmedabad, he did say it will be a special moment, it will be a special day when he will be receiving President Nahyan. Very importantly, you know, when we actually talk about UAE's collaboration, first of all, our UAE's partnership that it has had with Vibrant Gujarat Global Summit, it dates back to, quite a few years ago. So when we actually see that UAE's investments, if we see all across India, the investments that UAE has made, the businesses that the UAE has, the collaborations that UAE has, the largest part of it is in Gujarat. So definitely that speaks volumes of how much of importance does UAE attach to investments, specifically when we talk about Gujarat. The second thing is definitely, we saw there was an MOU exchange where the DP World CEO was also there. Today also Prime Minister Narendra Modi earlier in the day met the DP World CEO. Now DP World is a company which deals with port and logistics. DP World is interested in opening an industrial park in Gujarat, and also we know that the Kandla port, they have investments there as well. So definitely when we're talking about bringing down the cost of logistics, this can be substantial as well. And besides that, when we talk about the industrial park, it is also going to be quite essential. And that's what we have seen also in the health sector. We saw an MOU, and there's also an MOU in the solar sector. Besides having said all of that, there is also at the Global Trade Show, which Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated today at the Vibrant Gujarat Global Trade Show. UAE also has a pavilion where they will be showcasing what they have in terms of tech and obviously attracting more delegates and investors and stakeholders in the business fraternity to visit it.
Now, Prime Minister Modi also met other world leaders and CEOs. What did those talks focus on?
Ramesh, that's a very important kickstart before the actual summit that will be inaugurated tomorrow. Now, when we actually see Prime Minister Narendra Modi met the Micron CEO. Now, Micron has investments in Gujarat. Micron is setting up a manufacturing unit in Sanand. Now, that is going to be very important when we are not only talking about setting up a manufacturing unit for semiconductors, but we are also talking about, when we spoke to the CEO, he clearly told us that we are also looking at skilling the workforce wherein they can work in the semiconductor industry. And now that is going to be something that will have results in the in the time to come. So for the semiconductor industry, Gujarat is ready, and that's what Micron has been saying, that we are ready. And because of the policy that of the Gujarat government, it has become easier for them to. They have already started the construction of the manufacturing unit. Besides that, when we are talking about the education sector, Deakin University already has a campus now, which will be inaugurated tomorrow, and it will be the first international campus of any foreign university that will be opened in Gift City and also in India. Having said that, Wollongong University is also a university from Australia, which will also have an upcoming campus. Now, when we are talking about this sector of education, there is a lot of potential. When we are talking about IT Madras also going to Tanzania, IT Madras going to IT Delhi going to UAE. So we have such collaborations in the education sector also. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi clearly, when he met the CEOs also in port logistics sector, in the maritime sector, where commercial shipping sector. So he also met Suzuki, where he did talk about how Suzuki has had an association with Gujarat earlier as well. So it was a very extensive day for Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And exactly, we can say a kickstart to the Vibrant Gujarat Global Summit before the inauguration, setting the tone, setting the pace right.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Meghna Dev reporting there from Ahmedabad. Thank you for now. Appreciate it. In some more news from South Asia, India's assistance to Maldives encompasses a gamut of sectors such as defense, education, healthcare and infrastructure. India was among the first countries to establish diplomatic ties with Maldives after the Indian Ocean archipelago gained independence in 1965. India assisted Maldives during the 1988 attempted coup as well. Take a look at how India has played the perfect neighbor to Maldives. Abhishek Mahajan reports from New Delhi.
Amidst the India-Maldives diplomatic row, rift has widened in the political spectrum. Reports say several Maldivian opposition leaders have demanded newly elected Maldivian President Mohamed Muizzu's government to resign over comments about PM Modi. Sources say Maldives MP Ali Azim even asked MDP or Maldivian Democratic Party, the largest opposition party, to initiate a vote of no confidence. India has always stood by Maldives in its good and bad times, from pharmaceutical to defense to education to healthcare to infrastructure. New Delhi has adopted a flexible and accommodating approach in meeting Maldivian requirements. In 2018, PM Modi also attended the swearing-in ceremony of then-President Ibrahim Solih. India's humanitarian assistance to Maldives. India was the first to assist during the water crisis in Malé in December 2014. India had provided pollution dispersant to MNDF Coast Guard in 2016. In January 2020, India's swift dispatch of 30,000 doses of measles vaccine prevented an outbreak in the Maldives. India gave assistance of $250 million to Maldives for economic impact of COVID-19. Maldives became the first country to receive as gift 100,000 doses of India-manufactured vaccines with 96 hours of countrywide rollout. India is engaged in a host of infrastructure and development projects in Maldives, ranging from airports at Hanimadu and Gun Island, the Greater Malé Connectivity Project, development of Guli Falhu Port. The biggest project India is presently carrying out in Maldives is the Greater Malé Connectivity Project. Let's understand how India contributes to the tourism industry. In 2018, India was the 5th largest source of tourist arrivals in Maldives with around 6.1%, which is over 90,474 market share. In 2019, India reached the 2nd spot with almost double the number of arrivals compared to 2018. In a pandemic hit 2020, India was the largest source market for the Maldives with nearly 63,000 Indians visiting Maldives. In 2021 and 2022, India continued as the top market with over 2.91 lakh and 2.41 lakh Indian tourist arrivals. In 2023, India with 1,93,693 tourist arrivals is the 2nd leading source market. In March 2022, India and Maldives agreed for an open skies arrangement to further improve connectivity. Trade between India and Maldives has grown by 4 times since India's PM Narendra Modi assumed office in 2014. In 2022, the total trade volume was USD 501.82 million compared to USD 173.50 million in 2014. The bilateral trade had crossed the USD 300 million mark for the first time in 2021, making India its 3rd largest trade partner. Abhishek Mahajan reporting for DD India.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. Taiwan issues an island-wide alert after a Chinese satellite flies over its southern airspace. The militaries of Russia and Ukraine continue to exchange fire. And more than 60 countries representing more than half of the world's population will go to the polls in 2024. The year is said to be one of the most consequential years in recent political history.
Sir, try berry pulao. Too good. Good, no? Hey, why are you giving him such looks? Ignore tips and use your own mind before you order. Lots of people give unsolicited stock tips. It can be dangerous. Study the company and the risk associated. Invest only after analysis.
Do you know there's an investor protection fund for investors, IPF, but if your trade isn't executed on the exchange or if it's some guaranteed return scheme, then even IPF will not be able to help you.
And what if your broker becomes a defaulter then?
In that case, IPF can provide you with compensation.
Where did you learn this?
NSE's website.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Let's start with Southwest Asia now. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken told the leaders of Israel that he saw opportunities for them to build closer ties with their Arab neighbors after the Gaza crisis ends. He said there was still a chance of Israel winning acceptance from its Arab neighbors if it creates a path to a viable Palestinian state. Blinken called on the President and Prime Minister and also held talks with his Israeli counterpart.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken called on Israel's President Isaac Herzog in Tel Aviv on Tuesday in a bid to prevent the Israel-Hamas conflict from spreading further. President Herzog thanked the U.S. for its support to Israel.
As always, it's such a pleasure to have you in Israel. Thank you. This is your 4th trip already in this Gaza war. And we are very grateful to you for your support and for your steadfast commitment to Israel's safety and to making sure that Israel wins this war, because it's a war that affects international values and the values of the free world.
On his 4th trip to the region since October, in a so far largely fruitless quest to tamp down the violence, Blinken said that he would share what he had heard in 2 days of talks with Jordan, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia.
As always, We greatly value the President's leadership in these incredibly challenging times for Israel, for countries in the region, and especially for people who continue to suffer. I've just come from a number of countries in the region, Turkey, Greece, Jordan, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and I want to be able to share some of what I heard from those leaders with the President as well as with the Prime Minister and the Cabinet later today.
Blinken also called on Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Blinken also met his Israeli counterpart, Israel Katz. He hinted at opportunities for Israel's regional integration once the challenging moment in Gaza conflict is overcome. On Monday, Blinken had met Abu Dhabi's ruler, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. This is Blinken's fourth trip to West Asia since October. He also visited Jordan and Qatar on Sunday. Bureau Report, DD India.
Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati told a senior United Nations official on Tuesday that his country was ready for talks on long-term stability on its southern border with Israel. The Prime Minister's office said that Mikati met UN Under-Secretary General for Peace Operations Jean-Pierre Lacroix in Beirut to reiterate Lebanon's readiness to enter negotiations to achieve a long-term process of stability in southern Lebanon along the border with Israel. Russia and Ukraine continue to target each other's defense facilities and weapons depots. Moscow launched a large-scale missile assault on Ukrainian regions on Monday. People in Kyiv took shelter inside underground metro stations as Ukraine's Air Force announced that the city was under a ballistic missile threat.
As the Russian and Ukrainian forces continue to exchange fire, blame games also continues. They even claim hitting the other's military targets, that includes defense facilities and munition depots. While issuing battle reports, Russian Defense Ministry said Russian army attacked the Ukrainian army's defense facilities with its high-precision weapons, repelled the Ukrainian armed attacks in several directions, including Donetsk, Kupiansk and Kherson, and struck its control center for the UAV system, ammunition depots and other targets. Russian air defense forces also intercepted multiple rockets and drones of the Ukrainian army. On the same day, the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces also issued a war report. It said that in the last 24 hours, the Ukrainian army continued to engage in multiple battles with the Russian army on the left bank of the Dnipro River and other directions. The Ukrainian missile forces hit a Russian ammunition depot and other targets. Casualties are rising on both sides with every passing day. Footage shows hundreds of civilians took cover at a Kyiv metro station on Monday as Ukrainian forces said Russia launched large-scale missile attacks across the country. Ukrainian shellings injured 3 people in the Russian region of Belgorod late on Monday, and air defenses downed 10 RM-70 Vampire rockets. Belgorod has come under repeated attack from Ukrainian forces in recent weeks. Syed Absarul Hassan reporting for DD India.
The year 2024 is poised to become a monumental chapter in democratic history as more than 60 nations, collectively representing half of the world's population, prepare to cast their vote in a series of pivotal elections. Anticipated to engage an estimated 4 billion voters, these polls will mark a colossal exercise in democratic participation on a global scale. DD India's Mihir Mercury gives you a complete roundup of the forthcoming elections.
2024 is set to be one of the most consequential years in recent political history. The year will bear witness to national elections in more than 60 countries, representing over half the world's population. The United States, India, Mexico and Indonesia are just a few nations that are heading to the polls in 2024. Now let's get you some details of the nations heading for the democratic dance floor in the next 12 months. The US will head to the polls on November 5. 160 plus million Americans are registered to vote. The polls are to be the 60th US presidential election. Voting also to elect nearly half the members of the US Senate and House of Representatives. Incumbent President Joe Biden hopes to secure a second consecutive term in office. Ex-US President Donald Trump is hoping to secure a second non-consecutive term. Elections 2024, Mexico. June 2, Mexicans will head to the polls. Mexico has nearly 100 million voters. Voters will elect a new president to serve a 6-year term. 500 Chamber of Deputies members and 128 members of the Senate of the Republic will also be elected. 2 leading presidential candidates are women for the first time in Mexico's history. Ballot papers across Mexico will also include votes to fill 20,000 plus public positions. European Union. Elections for the European Parliament will be held from June 6 to 9. 400 plus million voters will elect 720 members of the EU Parliament across 27 member states. European Parliament elections will be the world's biggest transnational polls across multiple national boundaries. United Kingdom. The UK is set to go for polls the same year. General elections would most likely take place in the second half of 2024. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has indicated that he might call snap polls. Taiwan. January 13. 8th direct presidential election set to be held. 23.5 million strong electorate. DPP and KMT have alternated winning the seat of governance in Taiwan since 1996. Taiwan remains caught in the crosshairs of the tussle between US and China. Russia. Amidst the ongoing Russia-Ukraine crisis, Russia to go to the polls from March 15 to 17. Nearly 110 million people have the right to vote in Russia. Vladimir Putin is running for president again and will face little opposition. Putin's impending re-election to keep him in power until at least 2030. India. April-May 2024. India's election will be the world's largest. 900 plus million people are registered to vote. Voters will elect 543 members to the lower house of parliament called the Lok Sabha. Party or coalition with the simple majority of 273 seats will form the next government. Incumbent 2-term Prime Minister Narendra Modi stands head and shoulders above other possible challengers. 2024 also holds great importance for India's foreign policy, as the country's immediate neighborhood will be holding national elections, and outcomes of some of these elections may have a direct bearing on bilateral ties. On January 7, Bangladesh voted to re-elect Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina for a 4th straight term in a controversial election, and on January 9, the party of Bhutan's former Prime Minister Shering Togbe won general elections with nearly 2/3 of the seats in parliament. Pakistan's elections were also scheduled for February 8, but the country's Senate passed a non-binding resolution on the 5th demanding a delay in the general elections, citing prevailing security conditions in the country. Going south, Sri Lanka may finally hold elections this year after the ouster of its last elected president, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, in 2022. The country hasn't had a general election since 2018. As these elections in nearly 65 countries unfold, it will be a testament to the vibrancy and variegation of democracy around the world. It also holds the potential to reshape world order and global dynamics. Mihir Maikuri's report for DD India.
President Emmanuel Macron of France has appointed a new prime minister after Elizabeth Borne resigned from her position on Monday. More in the next report.
Macron on Tuesday appointed Gabriel Attal as the new Prime Minister of France, as he eyes a cabinet reshuffle amidst growing criticism and dissatisfaction for the current administration.
I'm thinking in particular of the middle classes, the beating heart of our country, the makers of the greatness and strength of our French nation. These women, these men, these families who get up every morning to go to work, who populate our territory and who we don't often hear, but who always meet their responsibilities.
Gabriel Attal is the youngest ever Prime Minister in modern French history at 34 years of age. Before Attal's new appointment, he served as the Education Minister in Macron's cabinet. According to opinion polls, Gabriel Attal is one of the country's most popular politicians.
I think it's very good to have a young person because it's a different concept. It is more dynamic. It is in the zeitgeist, whereas an old guy like me is no longer in the zeitgeist, that's all.
After a year of political challenges, including violence and backlash around controversial pension and immigration reforms, President Macron is on his toes to bring things back on track. With the new Prime Minister, Macron is pulling all strings to reclaim trust and popularity among voters and improve his centrist party's chances in the June EU ballot. Akriti Bhandari for DD India.
Across the Atlantic, former US President Donald Trump reached a Washington, D.C. courtroom on Tuesday as his lawyers argue that Trump should be immune from charges that he illegally sought to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Trump warned he could prosecute Joe Biden if he returns to the White House as Washington appeals court judges expressed skepticism at the former U.S. president's claims that he is immune from criminal charges for trying to overturn the 2020 election. Special counsel Jack Smith, who is overseeing the prosecution, has argued that granting such a sweeping legal shield would give future presidents license to commit crimes such as accepting bribes or directing the country's investigative agencies to plant evidence on political opponents. The case is one of 4 criminal prosecutions Trump faces this year as he campaigns to win back the White House. In Bangladesh, Awami League President Sheikh Hasina will take oath as Bangladesh's Prime Minister for the 4th consecutive term on Thursday. Other members of the upcoming cabinet will also take the oath on the same day at a ceremony to be held at the Darbar Hall of Bangabhavan in Dhaka. The Election Commission of Bangladesh on Tuesday published a Gazette notification on the results of the 12th national election with details of 298 newly elected lawmakers. The election took place on 7th January, in which the Awami League-led alliance bagged a landslide victory, winning 225 seats. And now take a look at some more stories making news around the world. After a series of earthquakes up to 7.6 magnitude struck Ishikawa and its vicinity last week, the death toll has risen to 202. The earthquake has also caused multiple roads to fracture, exacerbating the traffic disruptions. As Denmark's Crown Prince Frederik nears succession, the Royal Palace on Tuesday released official portraits of Queen Margaret, Crown Princess Mary and Prince Christian to mark Frederik's ascension to the throne on 14th January. Queen Margaret, Europe's longest-serving monarch, announced her abdication on live TV after 52 years on the throne. Famous props from the British series The Crown are going on display in a free exhibition in London before it goes up for auction. The proceeds from the auction will go towards a new program for film students called Left Bank Pictures, the Crown Scholarship at the National Film and Television School. Still to come on DD India News Hour. A discussion with guests taking part in the vibrant Gujarat summit. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh holds talks with his British counterpart in London. And India to host a UNESCO World Heritage Committee meeting in July.
Sir, try berry pulao. Too good. Good, no? Hey, why are you giving him such looks? Ignore tips and use your own mind before you order. Lots of people give unsolicited stock tips. It can be dangerous. Study the company and the risk associated. Invest only after analysis.
Do you know There's an investor protection fund for investors, IPF, but if your trade isn't executed on the exchange or if it's some guaranteed return scheme, then even IPF will not be able to help you.
And what if your broker becomes a defaulter? Then?
In that case, IPF can provide you with compensation.
Where did you learn this?
NSE's website.
सोच कर, समझ कर, invest कर.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Going back to the top story, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds a roadshow with UAE President on the eve of vibrant Gujarat summit, meets other world leaders and global CEOs, also inaugurates a trade show. Joining me are Dr. Mukesh Aghi and Ms. Tejashree Shah. Dr. Aghi is the CEO and President of US-India Strategic Partnership Forum. It's an independent and non-profit organization headquartered in Washington, D.C. And Ms. Shah is lead stakeholder engagement at iCreate. It's India's only non-academic institution dedicated to fostering startups. It was started in 2012 in Gujarat. iCreate is supported by the governments of Gujarat and India to help the next generation entrepreneurship. Dr. Aghi, Ms. Shah, welcome to DD India News Hour. Dr. Aghi, tell us a bit more about US-India Strategic Partnership Forum and also your first impressions about the Vibrant Gujarat Summit this year.
Well, the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum was launched in 2017, focused on building a strong partnership between India and the United States, be it geopolitical, economic, technological, people to people. And we are leading today the largest number of US companies into Vibrant Gujarat. And the energy, the promise of India, the amount of engagement we're seeing is tremendous. In fact, we should call this Vibrant India event rather than Vibrant Gujarat, because we're talking investment all across the country itself. But more important, you have to understand, while the world seems to be in turmoil, we have two wars going on, issues in Red Sea, India stands out as a resilient democracy, a stable democracy, and more important, an economy which is growing 7+% on an annual basis, creating market opportunity to US companies, plus providing de-risking of its operations from China into India itself. So we are excited about the event, and we are engaging quite strongly both with the central and local government itself.
Great. Ms. Shah, iCreate has completed a decade since its launch. How has the journey been for the organization?
Right from a staff of almost 6 people, we are now a huge staff of more than 40. We've supported more than 580 innovations, and we have more than 50 patents to our credit, of course, held by our entrepreneurs. And our entrepreneurs are shining. Some of them are ready to be unicorns. So yes, we're very happy with where we are. Also, iCreate has been the secretariat for the G20 Startup 20 Work Engagement Group. And now, in fact, in the Vibrant, we are tasked with doing a seminar focused on startups and how startups can contribute to the Viksit Bharat aim.
Dr. Aghi, coming back to you, how would you describe India-US ties under Prime Minister Modi's leadership in terms of trade and investments in particular?
Well, when you look at the largest investors into India are US companies. And these investments may be coming directly or through other offshore accounts. But US companies are the largest investors. You have to understand, you have a prime minister who basically has leveraged the diaspora all across the world. And you have around 5 million Indian Americans in the US who are in a very, very pivotal position across companies and also on the government side. The Indian Americans make only 1.5% of the US population, but they generate almost 6% of the GDP. So what we are seeing is a very strong interest by US companies under the effort by Prime Minister Modi to keep on coming in. And whenever he comes to the United States, he meets with all the CEOs, or when our member company CEOs come into India, he makes an effort to meet with them. So there is a sense of buoyancy about India. There is a sense of optimism about India. And there is a sense of opportunity of a $4 trillion economy, which will grow into a $10 trillion economy. And how do we get the big share of the pie for the US companies? So the effort put in by Prime Minister Modi is showing results which are both mid-term and long-term going to be positive in the US-India partnership.
Dr. Aghi, I want your take on another related issue. Now, Prime Minister Modi has met with world leaders and CEOs of global corporations ahead of the summit. How do you view the Prime Minister's outreach to foreign investors? Is there scope for, say, for instance, doing more in sectors such as semiconductors, ports and logistics, and even education?
Well, our experience is that the Prime Minister, every time he comes to the US, he meets with the U.S. investors. In fact, when he was on a state visit to the United States, we hosted him at Kennedy Center, and we had 1,100 plus business leaders basically connecting with him and committing to coming to India. You have to understand, it's not just about investment, it's also about technology transfer. The effort put in by Prime Minister Modi and the government shows that the effort to bring in GE engines, to talk about AI, to talk about quantum computing, you have a leader who has considered one of the most popular leaders in the world, and now be able to talk technology, be able to talk about education, be able to talk about energy partnership. So what we are seeing is in the last trip Prime Minister took, over 103 different agreements were signed between the two countries, all the way from education to student transfer to quantum computing to partnership mission to the moon itself. So I think what we are seeing is a tremendous amount of effort put in by this government. But more importantly, the end result is we are seeing transfer of technology, transfer of capital coming to India in a very, very strong fashion.
Indeed. Ms. Shah, talking about iCreate, has entrepreneurship taken off in a big way in India's Tier 2 or Tier 3 cities? Is the aspirational India your catchment area for top talent?
Definitely. The Tier 2, Tier 3 cities have exponentially grown when it comes to the startup ecosystem and getting good startups from there. Of course, India is growing in a very, very monumental fashion when it comes to entrepreneurship. We were 3, slowly we are becoming number 2 in the world when it comes to generating startups and the growth of startups. Of course, our innovation index is also growing higher day by day. We are definitely growing by leaps and bounds, and when we started the Startup India 10 years ago, there were barely 900 startups, registered startups in India. Today, the official figure is more than 112,000 and growing day by day. And there are many startups who've not even yet registered onto Startup India. So definitely we are growing and they're contributing greatly to India's economy. I would definitely say that.
Fair enough. And finally, Dr. Aghi, coming back to you, spoke about optimism and buoyancy in the way America or American industry looks at India. Talking about perceptions, is the US industry bullish in India in terms of, if I were to ask you, what is your wish list for the immediate term in terms of policies or partnerships?
Well, the US industry is absolutely bullish on India. You have to understand there are multiple factors which are playing into that. Number one, China. Basically, every boardroom is asking, what is your China Plus strategy? How do you de-risk your supply chain from China? And India plays that pivotal role itself. Number two, India will become a large market for these companies. Classic example is Apple. 3 years ago, Apple was producing nothing in India. Next year, it will produce 25% of iPhone 16 in India for the rest of the world itself. So what we are seeing is a tremendous momentum. And I think it's important to understand that if you can take the reforms we have seen in Gujarat to other part of India, be able to move in much more transparently into policy making, you will see much more acceleration of investment coming in. India has taken a leaps bound of ease of doing business when you compare last 10 years and now. There's always room for improvement, and I think you'll see a momentum picking up once this government comes back in next year's election itself.
Right, on that optimistic note, may I thank both my guests, Dr. Mukesh Aghi and Ms. Tejasvi Shah, for joining us and sharing your thoughts and insights with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Moving on, India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh met with his British counterpart Grant Shapps in London. They reviewed the full range of India-UK defence relations. The two ministers had a fruitful discussion on a wide range of issues pertaining to defence cooperation, security, and on enhancing defence industrial cooperation. Earlier, Minister Singh inspected a guard of honour at the Horse Guards parade grounds in the city. There was a special parade by the British Army's No. 7 Company Coldstream Guards and the Band of the Irish Guards. The regiments represented on parade are among the most historic in the British Army. Minister Singh is expected to call on UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. India's Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Thakur is in Mumbai to attend several programs, including Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra and Core Committee meeting of South District of the BJP. The minister says that the Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra's objective is to ensure the widespread reach of all central government schemes that benefit the needy and underprivileged.
विकसित भारत संकल्प यात्रा ने ये सुनिश्चित करने का प्रयास किया है कि हर जरूरतमंद को, वंचित को केंद्र की योजनाओं के लाभ मिल सके, जानकारी मिल सके और जिनको आज तक लाभ नहीं मिले वो भी इसका फायदा उठाएं.
And now take a look at some other stories making news in India. In a first, India will hold UNESCO's World Heritage Committee meeting in the capital, New Delhi, from 21st to 31st July. The permanent representative of India to UNESCO, Vishal V. Sharma, said that the annual meeting aims to contribute to the expansion of the esteemed list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. India's Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav released the latest rule book for rail construction in India's capital, New Delhi. It marks a crucial initiative towards enhancing the standards and guidelines governing railway infrastructure development. The Land Ports Authority of India has devised a comprehensive set of 16 recommendations aimed at enhancing amenities and fostering equal opportunities across all segments within the Land Port Authority of India, with the objective of achieving gender parity. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Cold wave tightens its grip, snowstorms and sub-zero temperatures hit parts of the world. And demand for wooden models of Ram Temple at Ayodhya goes up ahead of its consecration.
Sir, try berry pulao. Too good. Good, no? Hey, why are you giving him such looks? Ignore tips and use your own mind before you order. Lots of people give unsolicited stock tips. It can be dangerous. Study the company and the risk associated. Invest only after analysis.
Soch kar, samajh kar, invest kar.
Do you know there's an investor protection fund for investors, IPF, but if your trade isn't executed on the exchange or if it's some guaranteed return scheme, then even IPF will not be able to help you.
And what if your broker becomes a defaulter? Then?
In that case, IPF can provide you with compensation.
Where did you learn this?
NSE's website.
सोचकर समझकर इन्वेस्ट कर।
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Cold weather and adverse weather conditions continue to affect different parts of the world, disrupting transport and everyday activities. Take a look at the next report.
Harsh winter and dense fog enveloped most cities in northern India. An orange alert was issued for Haryana, Punjab, Delhi and parts of Rajasthan, anticipating light to moderate rainfall in central and northwest India. The Sisu Lake in the northern Indian state of Himachal Pradesh froze after temperatures plummeted to -15 degrees. India's capital, New Delhi, also continued to grapple with bitter cold as temperatures dropped to 6 degrees Celsius. Dense fog blanketed the city, disrupting normal operations of flights and train services due to low visibility.
It has been extremely cold since the last week. For the past 2-3 days, there has been a cold gust of wind as well. There has been barely any sunlight.
In central United States, winter storms left roads, farmlands and vehicles covered with thick snow. The National Weather Service said the major storm was expected to impact large portions of central and southern plains, Midwest and eastern US through midweek. Heavy snowfall in Russia led to a multi-vehicle collision on one of Russia's main highways on Monday, killing 4 people, including a child. Peru braces for more downpour as it grapples with flooding in homes brought by heavy rains. Peru's National Civil Defense warned that close to 398 districts could be affected by landslides.
We are presenting all the actions we are taking during the intense rain period, and we are preparing to face any scenarios related to El Nino worldwide phenomenon.
More than 300 flood warnings were issued by Britain's government after flooding swept across large areas of England and Wales last week. Meanwhile, in quake-hit Noto Peninsula in Japan, the cold weather has been hampering rescue and relief efforts, with the highest temperature in Wajima city forecast at 6 degrees Celsius.
The demand for a wooden model of the Ram temple at Ayodhya has gone up ahead of its consecration on 22nd January. DD India's Kriti Vadhera reports.
The divine city of Ayodhya is brimming with excitement for 22nd January. Wooden replica of Ram temple is in much demand amongst visitors. Special wooden sheet is imported from New Zealand to carve the design of the temple to bring clear results of the final product.
हमने लास्ट में जब न्यूजीलैंड का पाइन एमडीएफ यूज किया तो उसमें हमें जो है इसकी क्लैरिटी जो है बहुत अच्छी लगी और हमारे जितने भी मंदिर लोग जिनके पास जा रहा है उन्होंने इसको बड़ी जो है सराहनीय किया। वो देश में ही नहीं विदेशों से जो है इसकी जो है डिमांड हो रही है और विदेश में अगर हम बोले तो हमारे पास यूएसए से फिर इसके बाद न्यूजीलैंड से।
After printing of design on wooden sheet, the sheets are cut into small parts and further put in boxes with sequins. Handwork is involved in final assembling of the temple. Hundreds of females from villages of Ayodhya got employment in such factories. For them, it's not just a matter of earning livelihood, but it's the offering of their service to Lord Ram.
ये महिलाएं हमारे अगल बगल में ही रहती हैं, तो वो 2-4 महिलाओं को लेके आई, फिर उन लोगों को हुआ कि हाँ ये काम हमारे लिए ठीक है, तो आके सब यहाँ पर धीरे धीरे 1 से 2, 2 से 4, 2 5 करके ऐसे धीरे धीरे सारी महिलाएं आकर सारा काम अपने आप धीरे धीरे करने लगी हैं।
Devotees want replicas at their homes so as to perform rituals on January 22nd. This factory is getting orders of temple replicas from throughout the world.
After the consecration ceremony on 22nd January of Sri Ram Temple, millions of devotees across the globe are expected to visit Ayodhya. And while they are in Ayodhya, they would love to take a replica back to their homes. With camera person Shiv Suman, I'm Kriti Vadhera reporting for DD India from Ayodhya Dham.
India's Minister for Minority Affairs, Smriti Irani, who is in Saudi Arabia, accompanied by Minister of State for External Affairs, V. Muralidharan, on Tuesday paid a visit to the periphery of Al Masjid Al Nabawi, the second largest mosque and one of the holiest sites in Islam after the Masjid Al Haram in Mecca. And now to all the news from the world of sport. India's President Draupadi Murmu conferred the National Sports Awards on the most deserving athletes at a function held in New Delhi on Tuesday. 26 athletes were honoured, including ace Indian cricketer Mohammad Shami. Suchitra has more.
President of India conferred the National Sports Awards 2020